It is fascinating. In the wake of this bridge collapsing in Baltimore, 6 people presumed dead, 6 of them who were hired by, I think, probably contracted company to fill potholes on the bridge. Don't know all the details of these workers. Most of them, my understanding is, of Central American background. Don't know when they came to the States. At least one of them was a 19-year Baltimore resident. And instead of looking at the fundamental issue that you have a behemoth of a shipping company, which has in the past been cited by the federal government for labor practices that have prevented essentially whistleblowers from going to the government and saying, we got a problem with some of the safety on these ships. And there's no indication that one of those problems caused this, though it very well may have. But the point being that you have a ship this large running up against a bridge that was not built for impact by a ship this large. And we as a society absorbing the externalities that this company essentially offloads on society to increase their profit margin. And the way you respond to this, if you're a right winger, is to look at none of those things. And of course, basically say it is a functional Dr. Seuss issue or DEI. Here is Victor Davis Hanson. This is the senior fellow at the Hoover Institute. And this is like where they're going with this. This is their big intellectual think tank.
We're racists.
So, Victor, I don't mean to say that because Maersk has this new DEI push, people likely died in Baltimore this morning. But I do mean to say there's a pattern here. Boeing had to fire its whole senior management because they were focused on DEI, and some of the safety protocols at Boeing seem to be having shortcuts run around them. Is the prioritizing of safety above everything else not happening? And is this part of the cultural revolution happening in America now?
I think so. We saw the same thing. We've had problems with the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. We've had problems with Boeing, as you pointed out. We've had problems. I think United Airlines had 7 near catastrophic events in over a 2-week period. We don't know the exact relation to cause and effect, but we do know this, that the world is much more interconnected. It's much more fragile than it ever has been. It's much more sophisticated, and it demands an ever greater level of expertise. But just at the time that we're building bigger and bigger and more dangerous ships, or we're assembling longer and longer trains that derail, like we saw at East Palestine with more and more toxic, we're not upping our game as far as increasing the level of expertise and especially, Eric, meritocracy. So we're not hiring necessarily the best people. We used to say we're going to hire the best people.
I mean, this is just so unbelievably outrageous, and it's amazing to me. They can talk about what happened in East Palestine. This is exactly the same dynamic we saw with these shipping behemoths, and frankly with Boeing. There are profiteers. The reason why those trains are that much longer is because they want to hire less people to work on them. It doesn't matter how skilled you are at working on a train. If you're understaffed, you're understaffed. It doesn't matter how skilled you are as a pilot. If the company building the planes is cutting corners because they want to increase their stock valuation, it doesn't matter how good of a pilot you are. I mean, it is stunning to watch them do this.
Boeing can't even keep it consistent. He's like, are we prioritizing safety? And like, that's actually not the complaint you're making. The complaint you're making, Eric, is that they're prioritizing diversity over safety, right? But the actual thing is profit is being preferred.
100%. 100%. This is about CEOs and people in the C-suite essentially having a cottage industry within these companies where their compensation is tied to nothing but the stock valuation. And so if that means we can do more with less people and that's sustainable for a certain period of time, I'm going to get richer.
I'm going to sell my
Frankly,
stock
at the end of the day, I'm going to walk away with millions upon millions of dollars, maybe in some instances, hundreds of millions, some instances, maybe billions. And I'm not going to worry about it too much if the company goes into the crapper because I got my money. It's amazing to watch an adult say this. Let's finish it up and see what he's saying. And it's also, I want you to remember the way Eric Bolling brought this in, because every single one of the right-wingers that we have talking about this did the exact same thing. Yeah. I don't know if DEI had anything to do with this ship, but it gives me a good opportunity to pretend like it did. But continue with this.
So we're not hiring necessarily the best people. We used to say we're going to hire the best people regardless of their color of their skin.
Pause it for 1 second. Where are the best people? Where are the best people going? Are they just out of work? Is that what's going on? The best people are out of work? Are the best people working at some other like airline manufacturer? It's just absurd. What other ships are the best ship captains? Where do they do? They're just they're working in real estate now. I mean, what like this is absurd. It's absurd.
Necessarily the best people. We used to say we're going to hire the best people regardless of their color of their skin, their sexual orientation. Now we're saying, well, we may hire the best people, but more importantly, is their ideology or their ethnicity or their gender or their sexual orientation. And unfortunately, it's exactly the wrong time to do it because it's a much more dangerous, interconnected world. And when you have a foreign company doing this with a foreign crew, and we don't know what our people were doing, but you're just risking the chances that something's going to go wrong. And you saw the same type of ads. I went back and looked at Boeing's ads. I went and looked at United. United even said not that it was going to have 50% DEI applicants for its pilot training and crew training, but it was going to graduate or employ 50%. So it was an equality of result, not of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's not a pilot issue.
Ads.
Like, what are we talking about? A pilot issue? This is a manufacturing issue.
Pilot didn't hold on to the door as it fell off.
It is just they all use this as an opportunity to say like, oh yeah, we're all doing the racism thing. If you want to participate in racism and engage in this racistly, here we are.
The so-called progressives are actually regressing.
Thanks, BB. Want to do Dave?
Yeah, let's go to Dave.
Yeah. We heard Eric Boiling. How did he introduce this? He said, well, I don't know if this is a function of DEI, but it could be. And let's do a whole segment on how there are too many black people, too many women, too many brown people, too many gay people who are getting hired for things. And that's why the whole world is falling apart now. Let's see Dave see if he can't.
Yeah, from one thought leader to another, Hoover Institution to the Rubin Institute.
But anyway, I thought it was worth covering because if you haven't seen it, I mean, this sort of thing is why it's important to have the best engineers, the best builders, the best everything building infrastructure. I don't know that there was anything unsound with the bridge itself. But when you watch something like that collapse, it's like we should have the best of the best building all of our stuff. And I think you can already see where I'm going with this, that once you allow that woke thing, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with that specifically,
Positive.
but once you will...
It was pretty obvious where he was going as soon as he opened his mouth. Every day. Every day. Yeah. Do you think he was going to call it? Thank gosh for the IRA.
Yeah.
Thank God we had a bill that dealt with infrastructure. We need more of that. We need to have the government pay more and more for engineers because we want the best. We need to have the best infrastructure. No, that's not where he's going. Of course not. Go back.
Building all of our stuff. And I think you can already see where I'm going with this, that once you allow that woke thing, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with that specifically, but once you will decide, okay, we won't hire the best of the best to build our planes or build our
Pause it
bridges
for
or
one
build
second.
our
I'm
buildings.
sorry. In other words, I'm talking about this bridge and what happened there. And the only thing I can actually even reference to it, even though it has nothing to do with that, is that we're hiring too many women and black people and brown people and even gay people. Good.
Woke thing, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with that specifically, but once you will decide, okay, we won't hire the best of the best to build our planes or build our bridges or build our buildings or our roads or whatever else, then bad things are going to happen. But anyway, I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how and this whole new move. I like that. You can tell he's using his brain because he's pointing to it.
Yeah.
This is where this is coming from. It's coming from right up here, folks. This is all. I'm thinking about this. I didn't just get this in an email. It's just a coincidence that I'm opening this up exactly in the same way that Eric Boiling is on some other show. Like, these things are completely unrelated, but I just happened to come up with the same connection that Boiling and Victor Davis Hanson had. It's unbelievable.
I don't think it's about like hiring the best of the best. I think it's about adequately staffing and not cutting those corners.
Swing State says they think they're criticizing DEI, but they're actually criticizing capitalism. But yes, but they're obscuring the critique of capitalism by pretending it's DEI.
They're kind of criticizing the workers more than they're criticizing the capitalists. And basically the workers have made the capitalists be woke and not hire the way that they have historically done it, which is, of course, ludicrous.